welcome to Books and Brews. I believe we are on Books and Brews Light number 18. And before we jump into it, I would ask people to please like, share, and subscribe so that we can grow and bring you more great authors and bring them to more people. So welcome, Tanya. How do you pronounce your last name?
Dodaro.
Dodaro. Okay. Last names are always interesting.
Yes.
You can go many ways. So I would like you to introduce yourself and your book to our audience.
Of course. So my name is Tanya Dodaro. My background started, I guess my career path anyway. I started in my career out in journalism. And funny story about that. So I was a valedictorian for my grade 6 graduation. And as part of that, I requested that all the graduates come dressed in what they wanted to be one day when they grow up. And I had friends who were saying, I want to be teachers and veterinarians and doctors and all the, I guess, more typical careers. And none of them really resonated with me. And I just couldn't. And the day was coming and I was getting stressed out and didn't have any idea on what career I wanted to pursue. And then one day I walked into my family room and my parents were watching the 6 o'clock news. And all of a sudden it hit me. I said, what's the name of that career? That's what I want to be. And it was a journalist. So I walked into my grade 6 grad carrying a CBC briefcase and the rest is history. So I started my career in broadcast journalism, hosting and producing nationally across Canada. I moved to the US for a short period and then was a journalist there working in New York. And then I completely flipped the script and went on the other side and founded On Cue Communications, which is a marketing and PR firm. And then that was in 2005. And ran that for many, many years. It was actually acquired in January of 2023. So that's kind of half of me. The other half, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I founded 5 different businesses and 2 have been acquired and then the other 3 run passively.
That's an amazing story and amazing accomplishments. So your book is, what is the book called?
So my book is called Where's Your Boat Headed? And it's meant to ignite the entrepreneurial spark in those who are interested in living life on their terms.
Okay. And from what I read about it, it sounds like it's sort of geared toward women.
It is. It is. I feel very passionately about empowering females. I feel like there's many females who I've come across throughout my career path and even past clients of mine, female entrepreneurs who don't get the same recognition, who don't perhaps get the same nurturing as male counterparts. And when it comes to entrepreneurship, these things are critical. So I really wanted to focus on a female demographic and focus on a book that will help propel them in the right direction to become successful entrepreneurs.
And why do you feel that they aren't getting that same nurturing and help? Because that was actually one of my questions, how women, what different challenges they might face from men.
I think number one is investment. I don't have the stats in front of me, but women, I want to say it's 1 to 2% of investments that go to female entrepreneurs. It's very low. I don't mind the stat. It's very low. I think that's number one. And at the end of the day, similar to my situation, women have children, and having children is a very busy time in your life. And when you're an entrepreneur, you really can't take a traditional mat leave. So I always say my business was my first baby. And then I had 2 other babies. And so it's just juggling those 3 babies. And how do you push forward to embrace all of what it means to be a woman / mother, and then at the same time continue and have a successful business to come back to, after you've raised your children.
Right. So did you sort of take a break while you were raising your children?
I was very lucky. With purpose, I decided to co-found my business. And I co-founded it with another woman, and we both had very similar values, which were work-life balance focused. And I don't know how this happened. I still don't know how it happened, but we had, between the two of us, had 5 children. And he had 3, I had 2. And we managed to actually take turns having kids. And
That's convenient.
It was very convenient. So it was wonderful. We actually took 18 months of maternity leave because we had each other to rely on. There's many different ways that women can manage maternity leave. This was just the way that we chose to manage maternity leave. And it was very successful because just like you can't just trust your child with anyone, I felt much the same with my business. I can't just trust anyone. So having my co-founder lead the business made me very comfortable and allowed me to have time with my children and enjoy those precious first year.
Right. And that's fantastic. What kind of business was it?
It was my marketing and PR firm.
Okay. And what were some of your other, I think you said 5 total you founded?
Yes. So another one is in real estate. Another one is, if another funny story. So when I was actually, I just had my second daughter, and my business partner was pregnant with twins. And we were in a spot where we were really trying to take turns, but there was a little bit of overlap. And we thought, how can we continue to grow the business, yet still be present for our children? And I was taking my daughter to Montessori school at that time, my older daughter, and I happened to run into her teacher, who happened to tell me she's looking for a new leadership role. I happened to have a unit next to our office that happened to be vacant. And my entrepreneurial brain started saying, how can we connect the dots here and create something of value, not just for myself and my business partner, but for all the other parents that were employees of the business at the time? And so I founded Busy Bees Childcare Center, which was attached to our office. And it allowed all of the parents to have a place to leave their children where they were super close. Pickup was easy, drop off was easy. If your child needed you during the day, you were nearby. And it allowed us to be able to freely work without having that guilt, and knowing that your child was being well taken care of, with a strong curriculum. And a lot of training.
That's a really neat way to go. Now, what I did, I actually have 9 children.
Wow.
And so I actually worked from the time I was 20 up until about 2.5 years ago. I taught music lessons.
Oh, wow.
And I was told, do not get a degree in music. That's a terrible idea. You're never going to make any money. Well, you get paid very well per hour to teach music lessons. You may not get benefits, things like that, but you get paid very well per hour. And so for me, it was a perfect part-time job. And I alternated schedules with my husband. So he would, I was teaching in the afternoon, mainly after school. When I got home, he went and did the night shift. And so for the most part, until they got older, there was always a parent home with them. I was making good money, and it worked very well. So it's neat to hear how other women are solving that issue.
Yes.
And how they're taking care of it. Do you have a reading ready for us?
I'm sorry, a reading. Yes, I do. Yep. Okay. So this is chapter 2, and it's called The Engine. So the book has a nautical theme. It's called Where's Your Boat Headed with Purpose. And the metaphor I like to use is, if your boat doesn't have a destination, it will circle the ocean. So you always need to know where your boat is headed. At any given day, you need to know where you're going. What are your goals? What's your destination? So this chapter is called The Engine. So choosing to go out on your own, and I will even go so far as to say going against the grain in your career path as an entrepreneur, is a tough decision. It's accepting the unknown path, having confidence in your own abilities, getting excited about the potential that lies ahead, self-motivating at every corner, and picking yourself up at every wrong turn. And all the while, it's knowing that the second you make the decision to say yes to entrepreneurship, you put yourself in control of your own destiny. This is a very powerful feeling that can't be matched by much in life. Say it slowly. Live life on your terms. Think about the possibilities. Doesn't it almost sound magical? Don't be fooled, however, because making the decision to be an entrepreneur is actually arriving at this decisive point. It takes a lot of time, energy, and deep thought. I consider this the before period, where you whip your mind into shape for that big day when you're finally ready to say yes. It's a daily commitment similar to getting up to going to the gym, picking up your 20-pound weights and repping it out. Do you have a business idea that will solve a problem or fill a need? Have you come up with a solid execution plan? Who is your target market? How will you reach the masses and let them know about your idea? What about financing? How will you keep motivated when things get to be impossible? That is the hows and whats are popping up everywhere. So I think I'll end it there.
Okay. Yeah, that's I've talked to a couple of people who've written books about business, about this sort of thing. And, that's so important. I think a lot of people just don't really think ahead. They just kind of go day by day, and then one day go, I'm 45. Nothing's going like I thought it would. Well, because you didn't plan. So I've made some interesting plans. I had a plan to support myself by writing a book. And in retrospect, I said that was a really dumb plan, but it worked. So, but I was working 18 hours a day between kids, teaching music lessons, marketing, and trying to write the next book. So yes, it is a lot of time, a lot of commitment, and I think people really need to be prepared for that. No, I was interested. You were a television host. What was that about?
Host and producer. So the show was called Health and Beauty Television. There was a few shows. That was the main one. And so they were all lifestyle television shows.
Okay.
And very focused on wellness. At the time, the wellness industry was booming. So there was a lot of buzz around what wellness was and what it meant to people. And so we created one of the first shows around health and wellness.
Okay. And how long did that last for?
That was a few years. I bounced around in journalism for a little bit, looking for talk shows and even news, business news. I got to interview Donald Trump and Jean Chrétien.
I saw that. No, you will have to tell me who Jean Chrétien is.
He was the Prime Minister of Canada.
Okay. Trudeau has been there so long.
Yes.
What years was he the Prime Minister there?
Good question. I don't know. I would have to Google that.
Okay, I'm just wondering if it was so long ago that I wasn't really paying much attention to.
Probably. Yeah, we're probably like.
So that's what this book is for. I will show you two pictures. Let me see. Can you see that?
I can, yeah.
Kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
And then I will show you the picture, one of the pictures inside. Again, I think I have to, can you kind of see that?
Oh, I can see that, yeah.
So this story relates to Trump because my husband and I, my current husband, had gone to Scotland. My books are set in Scotland. Yep. And so I write them and then we go to each location as much as possible, see if I got it right. So we were traveling in the southwest of Scotland, which is where Robert the Bruce was born and lived. And we were doing photography. And so this picture, and I wish that I knew how to make this work. This picture is at Turnberry Castle, which is where Robert the Bruce was born. And so we did our photography. I played flute sitting out on a rock in the water, got a neat video. We took this on the same land, and about the time we finished taking that and we're heading out, a security guard came upon us and said, "You're not really supposed to be here. This is Donald Trump's land."
Oh.
So that's my story of how we accidentally trespassed on Donald Trump's land. So I thought it was funny. The timing is just great.
I know.
What was your impression? How long ago did you interview him?
Oh, this was probably 20 years ago, maybe.
Okay, so quite a long time ago when
he was in a very different position. He was in Toronto for an event. And it was a bit of a scrum, so everyone was going after him. And I remember I got in and I was able to ask him a few questions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What was your impression of him as a person? I can guarantee you're the only one I've ever met who's actually met him.
Oh, okay. He had a very strong personality.
Mm-hmm. I think you would have to do what he's done.
He seemed very motivated.
Mm-hmm.
He seemed like he knew what he was doing. He was very confident.
Mm-hmm.
And I just saw businessman written all over him.
Yep. Yeah, I think it definitely takes a certain personality. My uncle is actually very successful in his business, and it is kind of interesting to compare the two of them. In a lot of ways, I'd say they're nothing alike, but I think probably I don't know my uncle in that sense. You know, he's just my uncle. But he's actually in building too, construction and real estate. And so when I was about 16 or so, I did go work on his construction sites for a while. He built up a good part of the Minneapolis suburbs. He's got a resort in Jamaica.
Oh, wow.
And so I had no idea the whole time up until I was probably in my 20s, because I would go to his construction site, work with him. He's in his ripped up jeans and t-shirt, flannel shirt, whatever. He's right in there getting his hands dirty. And one day I'm in my 20s and realize this guy's like a multimillionaire. And not even small multi, I don't think. But I did always appreciate that about him, that he didn't stand on, look at me. He was in the middle of things, supervising, seeing to things. So I thought that was a good lesson to me and really to anyone. So
I think you're right. I think people in business are very different than they are perhaps in their personal life. And at the end of the day, they're just people. Sometimes you get intimidated. I had recently been in a situation where we were pitching for an investment for a business I was working with. And I was the only female in a room of about 10 men. And I was probably one of the youngest in the room. And it was just a sea of salt and pepper hair males, and then me. And you know what? It's intimidating. It was a little intimidating. I don't know that I've ever been in that exact situation before. And then, you know what? I just said to myself, these are just people. I know that the boardroom, and it's a stuffy boardroom, and we've got this pitch and a deck, and this situation is tense. But at the end of the day, they're people that I interact with at Home Depot and the local grocery store, and other parents of other children and whatnot. So I think you're right. They're just people at the end of the day. Everyone.
Well, and my background is, my main instrument was trombone. And so I was playing semi-professionally, I was subbing, getting paid for it now. Well, actually, I was really building it up before we left Seattle. But, I spent from the time I was in 6th grade, usually being the only girl. And I think it just, it didn't bother me. And even when I started playing, say in college, well, actually in high school, I was getting paid to play in high school. But I found that music, and I'm guessing it's similar with business, music, if you can get the job done, nobody cares.
100%.
And so I got very used to being like, maybe I was 23, 24, and I was playing with an entire orchestra of people everywhere from their mid-20s up to their 70s. I was usually in a section, I played in a jazz band for 3 years, and all the men were, I think they were all retired in the trombone section.
Oh, wow.
But again, as long as you can do the job, nobody cares. And so I became very accustomed to that attitude. So
yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah. Now, what is some of your best advice for building up a business? Or let's say getting investments. How do you go about getting someone to invest in your business?
Well, I think you have to start with building a strong foundation for a business
Mm-hmm.
in order to get an investment. But I guess my number one advice for getting investment would be, what is the investor getting out of investing in you?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that most people miss that. People go on and talk about how great their business is and how they're so unique and focusing on their value proposition. At the end of the day, an investor really just wants to know, what am I getting out of this?
Right.
I'm putting in this much. What is the expectation? And what does that look like? But back to your question, before getting an investment, you need to have a strong business. And all the elements, from getting to know your audience, understanding what their pain points are and how your business is solving those pain points. You've got to focus on building a strong online presence, focusing on SEO, social media, a website that's very professional. These are the ABCs of starting a business.
Mm-hmm.
Being consistent and authentic, focusing on an authentic tone. I think with social media on the rise, people are really looking for authentic businesses. And how does that come out through all of your content, whether it be videos, whether it be social posts, LinkedIn posts, Instagram, Twitter, whatever. And what else? I think a lot of it has to do with networking and building your
Mm-hmm.
network business. Um, Announcing a new business or even my book, for example, to my network has been very successful. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't think enough people focus on building networks, but
Right.
network is I would say, number one most important most important thing that you should do when it comes to focusing on growing your business is
Right.
spend time on building your network.
Right. That's very important because it's who you know, not what you know. And I think when I was growing up, I really didn't get that. I really believed if you have a good product, it's going to sell. Obviously, you have to advertise it. But I read an interesting blog post, maybe about as much as 10 years ago. And the woman said, you hear all these stories about the author who is a poor single mother, wrote her entire book on the back of a napkin, and boom, it became famous. And, not just J.K. Rowling, but there are many such stories. And this particular blog writer said, scratch the surface, and you're going to find out that that single mother writing in the coffee shop was actually the daughter of the major publisher, editor at
Yeah.
Penguin. And she said, almost without fail, she said, I hate to say it, but most of them do have connections. And it's really about who you know, who can help you. And, on the one hand, that's a little sad. Like, I don't know anyone rich and famous. But on the other hand, you get out there and you do the networking and you meet other people and you help each other out. I did want to ask, how would you define an authentic business? What would that mean?
Sharing your journey, your values, your mission, to really emotionally connect with your audience. And then keep that, don't lose that as you grow. A lot of businesses lose that as they grow. So really focusing on keeping that as part of your mission statement, your tone, your postings, and everything that's going out to an external audience.
Okay, so I'm curious if this would be an example of what's not authentic. When I'm on social media, I constantly get private messages telling me my book is the most fantastic, amazing book and such great writing. Maybe the first time it happened, I was like, oh, wow. I think even that time I was like, really? But then of course, or they say, hi, how are you? How are you doing today? And of course, it always turns out they want me to buy from them, buy their business, buy their marketing business.
Yes.
And to me, it comes across as very inauthentic. you're pretending you love my books when I know you've never read them. How would you as a marketer deal with that, getting clients in an authentic way?
So I think that connection is the key word.
Mm-hmm.
So figuring out so whoever's reaching out to you needs to figure out how to properly connect with you. And obviously by talking about how wonderful your book is and then going in for an ask isn't authentically connecting with you. So sometimes it's about, and I mean, I guess we're talking about two different things. From a business perspective, and external messages going out is one thing. But when you're networking and being authentic, I think it's a completely other thing. On the brand side, being authentic is sharing your journey in a true and authentic way with your audience. The ups and the downs, because let's face it, as an entrepreneur, there's constantly ups and downs. My grandmother used to say life, and I like to talk about entrepreneurship in this way, is like train tracks. And when you think about train tracks, you've got two parallel tracks that constantly run together. And one is not always good and one is always good. So it's about balancing those two, because you're never going to have a time when it's all good or it's all bad. You're going to have some bad and some good at any time in your business or in your life. And so how do you make those work synergistically? So I think that's what authenticity means to me. And just going back to the word connection, it's about really connecting with your audience. And so whoever's reaching out to you isn't doing a good job of connecting with you.
Well, I think there are a lot of people who are trying to better their lives. So I'll give them that, but they're going about it the wrong way. Yeah. And I find that very interesting in how it pertains to what you're saying. So any last words of wisdom for our audience?
Oh, gosh. I'll go back to my book, and the reason I wrote this book, it was, I dedicated to my father who has passed, and he was an entrepreneur himself. So I grew up in an entrepreneurial household, and he would always play these motivational cassettes for my brother and I. And I mean it when I say cassettes, because this was a long time ago.
Right. Back in the day.
In the car. And there was one in particular that he would play by Earl Nightingale, and it was really focused on, knowing your goals and the laws of attraction, and knowing the destination of where you need to be at any given time. And so I think, and now I've taken those learnings and I use them with my two daughters, and I always focus on, where's your boat headed today? What are you doing today? What will you accomplish today? Doesn't have to be big, doesn't have to be significant. You just always need to have a destination. Otherwise, you'll just circle the ocean.
Yep, that's very good advice for everyone. So where can people find you online?
Amazon, Indigo, Barnes and Nobles.
And you have a website?
Yes, TanyaDodaro.com.
Okay, and I will put that up on the screen. Are you on social media?
Yes, on Instagram and LinkedIn as well.
Okay, fantastic. People can find me at booksandbrews.net, lauravosika.com. That's V as in Victor, Osika, because nobody can spell it, even though it's only 6 letters. And let me see. Our sponsor is Gabriel's Horn Press. And so the most recent book that I've just put out is Cooking with Rabbit, because we raise New Zealand white rabbits down in our barn, and they're adorable and I'm told tasty. I haven't actually had any yet. And then anybody who's interested can look at glenmerrillfarms.wordpress.com, and you can see those adorable rabbits and our adorable sheep. And chickens aren't cute to my mind, but they're funny. So thank you very much for being on the program. It was a pleasure meeting you. Cheers.
Cheers.